Okay, well, welcome everybody to our session today on giving and receiving feedback. I'm glad that you all decided to start a process that will allow you to practice this because it is a really, really important skill, especially in your business career as you get going. But I'll also say it's challenging. It's not easy and it's not natural. So what we're hoping to do today is to give you some advice. We'll be doing a role play and we'll be talking a little bit about how to do this effectively. I'm joined today by Sarah Esparza. Sarah is a HR professional. Sarah, maybe you could talk to the team here a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share a little bit of insight on giving and receiving feedback. So I am an emerging talent coordinator at Dell Technologies. We used to be called University Relations, but the scope of our work shifted a little bit. But essentially what I do is I work really closely with our recruiters, our strategists, members of our business units to solidify campus event plans and manage end-to-end logistics for events. So that could be information sessions, interview days, career fairs, networking events, anything like that. So day to day, what that looks like is kind of managing a lot of logistics and event calendar invites, training some of our campus teams to make sure they feel really confident going on campus and talking about life at Dell Technologies. I work with our vendors on shipments of event materials and catering. I also develop a lot of marketing materials and advertising events and job postings to candidates, and essentially just making sure that our campus events go as smoothly as possible. So that's a little bit about my role, and hopefully that provides a little bit of context as we kind of get into the role play too.
Exactly. The role play is going to mimic some of Sarah's actual duties. So thank you, Sarah, for providing that background. And also thanks for helping us out. We really do appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. First thing we're going to do is Sarah's going to talk a little bit about some advice and do's and don'ts for receiving feedback. I'm going to cover some advice on providing feedback in the right way and some things to avoid. And then we're going to do a short role play, and then we'll get into a really quick debrief. So hopefully we'll give you a kind of a good snapshot and some good advice on how to do this well.
I'm going to be sharing some do's and don'ts for receiving feedback. So first, some of the do's, some of that advice on things that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to listen really carefully, take notes, ask for clarification when necessary, and always feel like you can ask for examples. This is going to be a big part of your professional development. So making sure you're really clear on the feedback that's being provided is pretty crucial. Always show appreciation for positive feedback. It means that people are recognizing all the good work that you're doing. So always say thank you. Come prepared with your own assessment of your performance, both the positives and what you could have done better. Now, something that I ran into kind of early in my career was a lot of times these feedback sessions are happening every 6 months to a year. And a lot of times you come up and you go, I can't even remember what I did yesterday. How am I supposed to remember all the great things that I did in the past 6 months? So what I do is I have a living Word document on my computer. And so as I wrap up projects, if I get any feedback, even if I'm in a conversation with someone and there's something that I want to learn more about, I kind of jot these down in a Word document, and then I can refer back to it when these feedback sessions come up. So I'm always writing all the good things, but I'm also writing things that I think I could have done better. So it's easier to kind of reflect and wrap up when these feedback sessions come up. And then also stick to the facts. Deadlines that you met or missed, the quality of the work that you performed, and any feedback that you received from peers and others. It can be kind of hard sometimes to hear some negative feedback. So if you can really stick to the facts, it kind of removes a little bit of the emotion there. So next, we'll talk about things to avoid when receiving feedback. Never get defensive, even though it is hard to hear negative feedback. Try and avoid tuning out or disengaging and not making an effort to listen and really understand what's being said. And also try and avoid negative body language and or facial expressions, as this can be distracting and it doesn't really create a good environment for effective two-way communication. So another kind of tip, especially in this remote world, if you can be in person for feedback sessions, I think that's great. But if you can't, I always try and be on video and set up that expectation before the meeting so the person you're meeting with can be on video too. I think it just creates a better environment for this kind of conversation. And then lastly, avoid not being prepared and not having your facts in order. These conversations are really for you and for you to grow professionally. So be prepared, have your own assessments, and just make sure that you're really paying good attention to what's being said.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I will say that early in my career, I was not good at receiving feedback. I violated a number of the don'ts that you just went over, but I will say also throughout my career, some of the best moments was when I got both positive, but more importantly, the kind of developmental and negative feedback sometimes it was hard to listen to, but if you can get good at it, it can be a real gift. So for that, just let me cover briefly some of the things to think about when you're the one providing feedback, okay? And I think the first thing would be to set a positive tone for it. You know, it can be a little bit unnatural. So, you know, just starting with some small talk and getting comfortable with each other is always a positive thing. I would also say, as Sarah mentioned, sticking to the facts, you know, and giving specific examples of both the positive and negative things that you observed about an individual's performance is really important. So let me just give you a quick example of that. You could decide to say to somebody, you're a terrible team player, okay? Or you could decide to say to someone, you know, one thing that I did want to talk about is that I've noticed on the speed mentoring program that you shut down and didn't listen to other people's input, and you refused to compromise at times, and that came across, you know, negatively and really hurt our team's performance and ability to do the job. You can see the difference there, right? This kind of judgmental statement versus a specific example. So always stick to the facts and try and provide good examples. It's always important, as Sarah mentioned, both when you're giving or receiving, to come prepared. So if you've got specific examples you want to jot down, milestones that people met, great performance that you appreciated, feedback that you got from others, jot it down and be ready to talk about it, okay? I'd also say keep it conversational. One of the tendencies is to make it a one-way conversation, but it's always good to make it conversational and provide and allow the opportunity for the other person to give you their thoughts and ideas and how they felt they did on the projects you'll be discussing. And finally, it's always good not only to provide examples of things maybe the person needs to improve, but also give them some ideas on how to do it well the next time, okay? So things to avoid. I forgot one very important thing on giving feedback is you always want to start with the positives, okay? Then you can move with developmental or maybe some of the more negative feedback, but you always want to end with some positive feedback so that you're delivering that message in a very balanced way. So the positives, the not so goods, and finish with a couple more positives. I think that helps facilitate a much better conversation. Okay, so that's the advice. A couple of things that I would avoid is don't focus too much on the negatives, obviously. I think when you rely on opinions rather than facts, it can feel personal. And that's why I mentioned, you know, make sure you've got examples ready to go. Don't ever dominate the conversation. If you find yourself talking too much, catch yourself and allow the other individual to provide some input to you. And then if you come to the meeting unprepared, that sends a terrible message to the individual that the discussion isn't that important and that you didn't prepare and therefore it's not a priority for you. So make sure you come prepared to provide the feedback in an effective way. Okay, so that's a little bit of advice. I think what we're going to do now is to go into a short role play, excuse me, where our objective will be to hopefully provide some good examples of what we just highlighted. So if you're ready, Sarah, I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to be playing the role of Sarah's manager at Dell, and Sarah, of course, will be her. So what we're going to do is get started. So here we go. Hey, Sarah, welcome to the Zoom call. Thanks for being here with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, and hey, I was looking at my calendar and I just noticed it's been about 6 months since you made the big move to Connecticut. How are things going?
Yeah, it's going really good. We're finally settled in, I think. The winter has been really mild, which has been a relief, and we've really enjoyed our time, exploring the Northeast with our proximity to New York City and Boston. We're having a lot of fun weekend adventures. It's been really good.
Good. Yeah, that's great to hear. Sometimes moving can be real painful. So it sounds like you've had a good experience. So that's good. Well, why don't we get started? Before I give you my feedback, and I'm really pleased to see that you've got some notes with you. That's awesome. But, I just wanted to ask you how you think things have gone over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I am really proud of some of the work that I've done over the last 6 months. As you know, our team works a lot in the program Smartsheet, and I really feel like I've become kind of a subject matter expert in that space. So I've done a lot of testing and implementing major changes to our processes in there. And I even got to lead a meeting with all of those updates, which was really exciting. I'm also really proud of our big Dell Night event that we did. We had a lot of great attendees and a lot of great feedback from the students that they really enjoyed everything that we did that evening with them. And as you know, our fall season is super busy. And I went back and I looked and I led 166 fall events this year with our business unit. Yeah, so it was huge. And again, a lot of really good feedback from the attendees that events went smoothly. They met a lot of different students and really were able to be effective in their campus engagement.
Yeah, that's great. It's always a little bit of a relief when, our assessment is pretty much in line, because what you said are all that I had on my list. But I also wanted to talk about a couple of other things. The volume this year was more than we expected. We had to ask everybody to jump in and support each other. And I just got to tell you, I was really impressed and appreciate how much you were able to and willing to help your team, even when you had the rest of the team, even when you had your own full schedule.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say also that I did spend a little time with the business partners that you support, the guys in the business, the people in the business, and they were extremely complimentary on your organization skills. They really feel like you're easy to work with, that you communicate well for the most part. And they sought me out and sent me notes about how much they appreciated having you do the job that you do. So as a manager, that's always awesome to get the business teams telling you what they think. So
yeah, no, that's great to hear. Thank you. And we spend a lot of time and we work really hard. So hearing that feedback from the business is really important and super helpful. So I really appreciate that.
no, it's my pleasure. And I also think, you got the opportunity to coordinate at University of Massachusetts and really kind of extend beyond your regular duties. You were on site, and even the folks on campus, the recruiting team at UMass really appreciated your abilities and your ease to work with, and the bottom line was the event was extremely successful. So that's another thing that I would mention.
Awesome. Thank you.
How about things that maybe you didn't think went all that well?
Yeah, I mean, we just did some of our end of season wrap ups, And I think our end of season presentation with the business didn't go as well as it probably could have.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because, great stuff that I heard. I did hear from the business that the wrap up could have been better.
Mhm.
That, those debriefs are important because it allows for continuous improvement.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you caught that because that is something that we're going to want to tighten up for next time. And I'm happy to help you and give you some advice on seeing how that might be able to go more smoothly next time.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there's some gaps in maybe my project management skills, and that's where I really had a little bit of a challenge. So is there anything specific you think I could do to kind of strengthen that?
Yeah, I do. I'd say there's a couple of things. One is you should maybe back it up a little bit and start the process a little earlier and start your planning a little earlier. It felt a little and some of that that doesn't come together as well when you rush. I'd say the other thing is that you've got a couple of colleagues on the team, Jason and Maria in particular, that have developed their own specialty kind of templates to help them. And they've both been at the job a little longer than you have. I think utilizing your peers and checking with them and maybe having some best practices conversations with them and, taking their best ideas and sharing your best ideas might be a really good opportunity to kind of drive some improvement on that.
Oh, that's great. I'm just taking some notes here. That's
Oh, that's
really
fine.
good
That's
feedback.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Then I would say that what I wanted to ask you, sorry, that first of all, let me wrap a little bit. You did great. And I'm glad that we're in alignment here on your performance in some of the areas that to improve. Is there anything else, any kind of developmental things that you want to get involved with or engaged in that I can help you with as a manager?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because I got to meet with our recruiter, Stephanie, and she was actually showing me a little bit on how to screen candidates, and I found it really fascinating. So I actually think I might want to learn a little bit more about the recruiter role and all of what that entails.
Okay, yeah, I think I was hoping you'd say that because I think not only me, but some of the other management team members and on the university recruiting team see quite a bit of potential with you. And if recruiting seems to be something that's a natural step forward to advance your career, we can set up some shadowing. There's a number of really good, sharp recruiters that love sharing their expertise. And that'd be a great way to kind of get a realistic view. And if it's something that you say, hey, this is really something I want to try and do, we can talk about additional developmental things that can kind of get you in that direction.
That would be awesome. I would really, really appreciate that. That sounds great.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, one more time, I think you're doing a great job. Appreciate everything that you're doing. You know that I'm always here if you need any additional feedback or input. So thanks again for a really good 6 months.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So that's the role play. You can see Sarah had some extremely good theater training in high school, which came through loud and clear. But we wanted just to do a very quick debrief. Sarah, what could have gone wrong in that exchange, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think not coming prepared. Again, you'll notice at the very beginning, I had very specific projects, things that I did, even numbers, leading X amount of events. Anywhere where you can really narrow down on those hard facts is really helpful for this conversation.
Yeah.
And another thing was the reaction to the negative feedback. It would have been easy for someone to get defensive or say, well, I didn't see it that way, or I did the best I could. But instead, getting curious about the negative feedback that someone has for you and asking those clarifying questions, being able to recognize your weaknesses, in this case, maybe those project management skills, and then asking your manager for help in that area. They're there to help you develop. So feel comfortable talking about it and asking for help where you need to.
Okay, those are all great. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Just a couple of closing comments is, you know, I recognize that the project and the feedback that you guys are gonna, your students are going to embark on is going to be a bit more informal than some. But those principles really, really do apply in any situation. The other thing that I'd say is once you enter your business career, if you can remember some of this advice and some of the things that we talked about that lead to doing this effectively, especially when you're new in the workforce, it's really, really important to get in the habit of being able to receive feedback in the right way. And eventually, when you get to that point, to provide it in the right way. So thank you very much for your attention. And Sarah, thanks once again for all your help.
Yeah, happy to help. Good luck, everybody.
All right, see ya.